The year was 1902 in Stockton, California. While trains carried people and goods from the San Francisco Bay to Delta communities, boats were a primary means of transportation on the Delta. And the channel in downtown Stockton was an attractive place for two brothers to hang out and dream of a future.
Thode and Roy Stevens were teenagers living not too far from the Haggin Museum and just a couple of blocks from the Stockton Channel when they decided to build a boat in their parents' backyard. That was the 33-foot sloop Dorothy, centerboard sloop. And when people saw the quality of the boat that these two young boys had built, they got a commission to build two other ones in quick succession. So by 1903, everybody was talking about these whiz kids who were turning out beautiful boats, and the commissions and all of the other work followed on the heels of that.
The brothers and their fledgling company, Stevens Brothers Boat Builders and Designers, were soon building boats and more boats. Swift little spud boats used by commodity buyers to speed out and secure contracts with farmers throughout the Delta. Whoever got there first got the signed contract at a good price.
It had to be fun to be able to jump in a fast boat, shoot out into the Delta, and you know exactly where you're going and you want to get there as quickly as possible. But speed was of paramount importance. The need for speed, the interest in speed would continue. But in that vein, the commission merchant boats, they became dinosaurs because they were no longer needed for that specific purpose, because the commission merchants now could drive out to the farms and the ranches.
Most of the Stevens Brothers boats were wooden, built by hand by craftsmen. Many of the boats were built under contract during World War II. Minesweepers, salvage and repair boats, air rescue boats. But it was their pleasure craft that earned them a worldwide reputation.
They started converting into making pleasure craft for the most part right around 1925. And it's the pleasure craft that they probably will be most recognized for, both their motor yachts and also their sailboats.
I've been boating since I was a child. My father was a naval officer, and we lived on the coast throughout my adolescence. I was in the Navy to serve my military time. I was in the Coast Guard, so I've been on the water a lot. Always sailboats. This is the first power boat we've ever owned.
These days, owning a Stevens Brothers wooden boat is an honor. David and Benny Cobb have owned their boat, a 1939 42-foot bridge deck cruiser, for 5 years. We
started looking for classic boats 7 or 8 years ago. It took us a couple of years to find this. And as we looked for classic yachts in the San Francisco area, it was apparent the majority of the old wooden boats were Stevens. Every time we were looking for an old boat, 3/4 of the times it was Stevens. And so as we learned more about Stevens, went up to the museum and talked to them, we realized what an important part of maritime history in the Bay Area the Stevens boats were. It's just a wonderful thing owning an old piece of machinery like that. It's like owning a classic car or an old classic house.
It was a work of art and a work of love, and I think that's why these boats have lasted so long.
Chris and Pat are the daughters of Dick Stevens, who with his brothers took over the company after the end of World War II.
The craftsmanship of the boats, on how they were built, and the dedication of how the Stevens brothers built their boats, and the service and the workers were so, they enjoyed their work.
Stevens Brothers really not only knew but followed all of the good axioms associated with customer service, and the customer dictated what that boat was going to look like.
During the 1970s and 80s, the company made fewer and fewer boats, making their last wooden boat in 1977. Then the company was sold, making only 18 boats between 1977 and 87 when it closed down. Stevens Brother boats were never cheap. They are vintage works of wooden art, selling these days for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
They cared about quality. They were sticklers for craftsmanship, making sure, I read an interview when Dick Stevens said, if a part doesn't fit, we tear it out and we work on it till it does fit, and if it won't, we go back to the drawing board. They cared that much about the vessel. Remember, each one of these boats carried their name on it. Every Stevens boat had one or two generations of Stevens Brothers' name right on the boat. So it meant a lot to them.
The Stevens Brothers Boat Builders and Designers exhibit can be seen in the new gallery at the Haggin Museum in Stockton through September 29th. There is also a permanent smaller exhibit in the California room that includes a fully restored 1927 26-foot runabout.
This museum's done a lot to promote something that was, if it wasn't here, a lot of people wouldn't know there were boats being built in Stockton.